If you're looking to enhance your athletic performance or just get in a little bit better shape, look no further than Forza Sports. Forza Sports has everything you need for men, women, and children to take their training to the next level. From football to tennis, baseball to running, even hunting and paintball, Forza Sports can check off all the boxes. And of course, for the aspiring combat sports athlete, Forza Sports is your one-stop shop for punching bags, including aqua training bags, boxing and MMA gloves, headgear, gis, and much more, all at competitive prices. To save even more money, sign up for savings and get the latest deals at ForzaSports.com. Forza Sports has been serving the athletic community and more for over a decade and look forward to serving you for generations to come. Get the best gear in sports right now at ForzaSports.com.
All right, everybody. Ryan Sprague here of MyMMANews.com. Thanks for checking us out. And we've got a really interesting show coming up with you right now. I'm sure everybody is aware of what happened earlier in the first week of April with Anthony Lionheart Smith and that horrific experience that he went through. Luckily, Anthony, being the man that he was able to get a grasp on the situation, and everything came out with the best possible outcome available. But there's a little bit more to this story, and before we kind of get into it, let's just go ahead and bring him on. Anthony Lionheart Smith. Anthony, I love that you're taking time out for me, and every time that you talk, we always have a good time, so thank you for coming in again.
Hey, no worries, man. I appreciate you having me on.
So, obviously we're all aware of that Ariel Helwani interview that you did where you had a break-in into your home. You don't want to call it a burglary or a robbery because nothing was really stolen, but obviously a terrifying experience for you and your family to go through. And before I go in, I want to tip my hat to Ariel Helwani and the entire ESPN crew because I think they handled that better than probably anyone I've ever seen handle news like that. First things first, a couple weeks removed, and how are you feeling now that the situation has had some time to kind of pass and linger a little bit?
I'm okay. There's something I said before, and I'll reiterate it now. It doesn't end when he leaves the house. So there's stuff that comes along with that. Me personally, but my family's different. I got 3 young daughters, but they're tough, and they're super tough girls. My wife is tough, and they're getting through it. So my kids finally slept in their own beds for the first time since this whole situation last night. A little bit rocky at first, but one of them ended up in the bed at 5 a.m. But yeah, hell, man, that's a good start. I'm good with it, and we're moving right along. We're not gonna let any of these kind of situations or this guy. We're not gonna let any of that stuff hold us down. And I think that speaks to my career, it speaks to who I am as a person and how I've raised my kids. We're just gonna keep on trucking forward.
Most certainly. And you mentioned in the interview both your wife and your mother-in-law are gangsters. And how they handled this, and your wife has been, really working on cleaning up the house since the incident. I imagine that it's in tip-top shape right now.
Yeah, everything's all good. It's the same as it was before. Not to beat a dead horse, I'm just super proud of my family, man. Everyone was super brave, from my kids to my wife to my mother-in-law. Nobody ran. Everyone stood, held their ground, and we just dealt with the situation in front of us. So everything's good at the house.
Perfect. And we kind of go into that a little bit. The dust has settled on that most recent news. We know that the UFC Lincoln show has been postponed. I know that you just got news from that, but kind of combining both of these, has Dana White reached out to you both about obviously the card being canceled and then also what you ended up going through at the beginning of April?
Yeah, man, the UFC's been great. Immediately, Hunter and Dana reached out after the situation at the house, check on me, make sure I didn't need anything. They moved my card to the Tashi Palace along with UFC 249 initially before it got all canceled. I believe no one was allowed to bring anyone that wasn't coaches or corners, and they made an exception for me in that situation. They allowed me to bring my family just because it was so close. So that was the plan. I was going to bring my whole entire family with me, and they were cool with that. They were going to cover all the cost and stuff that goes along with that. So, and as far as the event, I think that there's a lot of things in the works right now. They're not talking locations or anything like that right now, but if I was a betting man, I would imagine that wherever the May 9th card is where I'll be fighting the next weekend.
That's awesome.
Or maybe the 2 weekends after. But it'd be close. It'd be close around that same time.
Perfect. Well, I'm glad that the UFC has done right by you. Again, also, I can't say enough about how much respect I have for Ariel Helwani and that ESPN interview that you did, because I know that had to have been hard for you, and that they were able to allow you to open up like that and be that's just so cool of them.
Yeah, man, and me and Ariel always had a great relationship, and with everyone at ESPN as a whole, we've had a great relationship. I've always had a great relationship, and they've never screwed me over. They've put it out exactly as I've said it. I wasn't ready to do the interview with Ariel, and I wasn't ready to even talk about it. Even my voice was still hoarse and I could barely speak, but I didn't really have a choice, because I knew that by Monday or Tuesday of that week that it was gonna come out. It was gonna come out no matter what. So because I'm on both sides of the media, I know how this stuff works. And what I didn't want to happen was a bunch of untruths and misrepresentations of what happened, and then social media get a hold of it, and then the media pick up on that, and if it was going to get out and it was going to go viral, I wanted it to be exactly what happened. I wanted it to be the truth, and then have no way to spin it, or have no way to I wanted the whole truth to come out, and I just didn't want, you can only fit so many characters in a tweet, so that's what I didn't want. And with my lawyer and the UFC's recommendations, it's best if it's going to come out, then it needs to come from the source, instead of having half-empty police reports and suspected names and allegations. Here's what happened, and here's what I did, and that's what I did. And so, because of the way that the media is, everyone wants to get the story. So I had to. If it was going to come out, I wanted to be the one to put it out.
I can respect that. Like you said, you're on both sides of the media, both as an athlete and as an analyst, and being in the booth and sitting ringside with John Anik and the likes, etc. Before we kind of move on to that, really quickly, have you gotten any updates about the intruder? I know that we read that he was charged with a misdemeanor of a felony break-in. Have you had any further information from this since it happened?
No, nothing too serious. It's still just a misdemeanor criminal trespass. He kind of just got a loophole. He didn't steal anything. The door was open. He didn't say anything that was threatening. He just screamed and hollered. So there's no terroristic threats. There's no attempted assault because he lost the fight. So. It just happens to be, he just happened to fall right in the middle of the loophole unknowingly. I do know that he ended up self-committing himself to some type of mental facility. From what the police say, it sounds like they regulated his meds, re-diagnosed him. So he's got some issues of his own. There's a couple other smaller details. It sounds like he accidentally ended up in this neighborhood. It sounds like he was on something. That there was some sort of attempted suicide by pills, and it clearly didn't kill him. It may have just made him go crazy. So nothing concrete. There's been some rumblings, but he's fortunately, I'm not going to stick up for the man, because what he did was wrong, and he deserves much more than he's getting. But at least he is taking the steps to deal with his issues. Right.
Well, and you mentioned it earlier, and we'll kind of go right into that. And again, I'm very, very happy that you and your family are safe, and you guys are being able to continue plugging along. That's heroic in my opinion, and badass to you guys. But you mentioned talking about how you wanted to be the person to bring it up. You didn't want social media to jump on it with untruths. Unfortunately, social media did get a hold of it, and we saw a certain side of this story that seems very irrelevant, yet is getting almost more coverage than the initial situation and incident that happened with you. And that, of course, happens with John Jones kind of inserting himself into this. And, we keep hearing that he is making his responses, so on and so forth. And John Jones is going to John Jones, right? It's just how he's going to be, and you kind of said it best earlier when he said it's a weird flex, but hey, if that's what you're going to be, then that's what you're going to be. My question to you, since you've been on the media side of this, you have to be furious with the way that it was reported that way in the first place. But B, do you think that it was responsible for the media that ran with the story about John Jones to run with that?
You know, I guess I'm on both sides of it, to be honest with you. And it doesn't mean that I like both sides. I don't necessarily agree with both sides, but I'm not shocked at John Jones's comments. This is how he is, right? There was nothing he said that was shocking to me. I wasn't blown away by it, and I made my comment towards John, and there was no rebuttal. I don't have a rebuttal for John. I don't have anything to say to him. Like, if that's the excuse me, if that's the direction you want to go, fine. But I'm not going down that road with you, because I'm a better person than that. I'm not going to attack you personally. That's not my thing. So, I am a little bit surprised with this being the John versus Anthony thing off of the tragedy that happened in my house. So I don't understand why, like, that's the story. But at the same time, if you're a media outlet that's trying to push viewers and you need clicks and you need likes and you need traffic. If you don't do it, someone else is going to. So it's a dirty game. The media side of it is a dirty game. And again, I'm not necessarily surprised that it went like that, but I don't like it. But I also hold a pretty good position in the sport right now, and so I'm in a position where I don't have to do interviews with people. You know what I mean? I don't have to give them content, and I'm also not going to change the way that I do my interviews. I'm just going to change who I do them with, or I'm going to monitor who I do them with. It's going to be people that I trust and people that I know is going to put it out there exactly how I said it and leave it. I'm not going to not be as open as I typically am. I'm not going to be as honest as I typically am, because then I'm going to end up like every other guy in this sport who just is BSing their way through interviews and trying to say things that they think people want to hear. And that's not me, and that's not who people have come to love and know. If I started changing that, then I would change who I am, and I'm not going to do that. So do I think it's super responsible? I mean, it depends on who you are. From my standpoint, not at all, because I'm the one that's catching the brunt of it. But, you know, am I surprised? No, I'm not.
And that's unfortunate. And a little kind of side story. When I started in journalism, I was 16 years old, writing for the local newspaper. In sporting events that I was playing, do you have any idea how difficult it is to refer to yourself in the third person in written form? It sucks. But,
I bet.
But, you know, and then I went into college and I was doing radio broadcasting and I was still doing PR work. And my junior year, I did my on-campus internship with the radio station, and it was based around sports broadcasting. And my thesis for that summer was based on kind of what you and I have been alluding to, which was ways to improve the relationship between athletes and media. And you hear this all the time. Certain athletes don't want to be interviewed. They don't want to be in the media. You can date this back to Marshawn Lynch, who just kept saying, "I'm only here so I don't get fined," during the Super Bowl. And that sucks from the journalist standpoint, because yes, like you said, you have to put out content. But from the athlete side, I also understand that from you guys, and I was never a professional athlete. I don't want my entire life to be out in social media and have everything that I put on Facebook or on Twitter or Instagram, TikTok, I guess now it is, being chronicled and being turned into a news story. I just don't think that's true journalism.
No, it's not. But that's the world we live in. And unfortunately, as professional athletes, especially in the UFC, you have to do it to be successful. And that's on a strictly monetary side of it. If nobody knows you or nobody wants to hear you speak, you're not going to be one of the guys getting paid. There's very few people that don't do interviews that make decent money and are the guys that are getting promoted. It's your Diaz brothers. Derek Lewis doesn't do a lot of interviews unless it's fight week. I can just keep naming off guys that don't do a lot of interviews, but for whatever reason, it works for them. And if I just started, but that's because that's who they are. That's just who they are as a person. Like I'm a super, like I'm an over communicator. I'm a really personable person. I'm a people guy. I love talking to everybody. So that just works for me. Now at the end of the day, like, is reporting tweets or Instagram posts or whatever, like, is that true journalism? I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm not a journalist, so I guess I don't know what that comes down to. But it seems like low-hanging fruit to leave everything at surface level and report most of your stuff from Twitter.
I agree with you. And there are sites that exist, and again, I'm not in the business of taking any shots or calling anybody out, where you're right. It is about quick content. And, you know, if John Jones posts something about something, there's going to be a story written about it. Same thing with Conor McGregor and all the upper echelon athletes, yourself included. But I guess I agree with you in the fact that it's low-hanging fruit. I just thought that there were certain things that just didn't seem newsworthy in general. If Conor McGregor says on his Twitter account, "Fight news coming soon," yeah, that's a story. But if John Jones is commenting on a story that he's not involved in, I just don't see it as being newsworthy. So I guess the question becomes, if we're going to consider social media to be a newsworthy atmosphere, are there right and wrong ways to go about it, or are there certain things that are off limits, in your opinion?
Yeah, for sure. But again, in MMA, those things don't exist. Like, are there things that I believe are off limits? 100%. 100%. Are there things that are off limits that I believe the media believes are off limits? Not at all. I mean, if that was the case, we like on my own radio show on SiriusXM Fight Nation, like, I don't think that I talked about the Conor Khabib situation when they got into the political and the religious talk. I don't think I even brought it up. If you listen to my radio show, anything I've ever said about John Jones hasn't been about anything he's done personally, ever. I've actually stuck up for him when it comes to his personal life, because I don't think that that's any of anyone's business. Has he made mistakes? For sure. Is it my place to speak on it? Not at all. It's not. So, and John, up to this point, has honored that agreement. It hasn't been anything personal. It's been what he said to me, what he has said to me, I've talked about. And any of his issues, I've never spoke on his personal life. I've never attacked him for it. I have spoke about his continued issues with the law and stuff like that. But I have a goddamn radio show. Like, my job is to speak about sports, and the only reason I talked about it was John's future continuing as an athlete in the sport and the things that he may have to deal with personally. But I never got into details. I didn't attack him over any individual thing. It was more broad stroke, and that's how I approach things. I don't talk about, you know, all the Conor stuff. I refuse to talk about the allegations that are going on with Conor, because it's none of my business. I talk about fights. That's it. But I do understand that, like, some people in this game, in this media game, they just don't have that. And here's the deal: am I going to make $1 million on my side of the media by doing that? Not a chance, because that's not where the money's at. It's in TMZ type stories, and that's where it's at. So again, like, I disagree with it, but I'm not surprised at all.
Right. And you alluded to it earlier that there are certain things that are just sort of off limits. It's kind of underwritten. And I guess my frustration with this is with the way that all of this has been running, and it probably won't come from Glover, and I would imagine that the dust will settle, but you're an athlete who is very well versed in combat sports. Your head has to be on a swivel at all times. But is that going to stop a fighter during a press conference that you're in, one of your opponents, from bringing this situation up again? And I think that that's just seriously messed up. And right now, anyone who's kind of reporting on John inserting himself into this situation is also kind of condoning somebody trying to do that to you in the future.
Well, I think that I think that he's just getting a lot of media for it, which is why he did it. John Jones, like, I'm not the guy that's going to be out here sticking up for John Jones, but I don't think he's as bad as a person as he likes to pretend. I think it's easier for him to get out of his issues to just be the jerk, like it's easier. He's easy. Like he has an easier time dealing with that. I don't think John Jones is as bad of a guy as he likes to pretend. But what it did do was get him a bunch of media for no reason. And that's what he's trying to do, because he's also smart, and he's smarter than he lets on. So is someone going to bring it up later in a press conference? I don't know. I don't know really what you could bring up. Like, I woke up at 4 a.m. to an intruder in my house, and I beat him from pillar to post and protected my family. Like, okay, you can judge me for that if you want to. But I don't know too many other people outside of MMA fighters that would have had an easier time doing it. Like I don't know, man. I would like to think the guys are better than that. And I'm typically not the guy that people are gonna attack, because I don't attack anybody. There's only one person in the world right now off the top of my head that I think, well, two. No, just one. I don't think anyone would really, except for Luke Rockhold. He's probably the only person that would go down that road. And honestly, Rockhold's never attacked me personally either. He said that he thinks I suck as a fighter. But as far as personal attacks, I've never attacked Rockhold personally, and he's never attacked me personally. There's always some unwritten and unspoken rules of engagement that everyone's kind of stuck to, and I suppose that everyone's going to continue to keep doing that.
Right. And I keep going back to the idea of the social media aspect of it. And for some reason, and go ahead and laugh all you want, I have some weird ability to reference fucking Gossip Girl when talking about sports. But, it kind of brings up the premise of that show, right? Which is, what if social media was just used to gossip and talk shit, right? And it became completely true. And at that point, like you said, is it newsworthy? Now, some people are going to argue whether it is or it isn't. So rather than maybe making that argument, should we report on it, should we not report on it, perhaps the question we should ask is, how can we improve upon that reporting?
Yeah, there's a lot of different. There's ways you could have gone about that could have been different. And I'm not saying you need to take my side or take John's side, but it's the clickbaity titles. It's the everyone was going to click on that anyways. You didn't have to like they did a good job of make it look like I took an L in this trash talk, and I wasn't engaged in any kind of trash talk. That wasn't my goal. So I'm not exactly sure how you could have changed that whole situation, but you absolutely could have done it differently for sure. And it's honestly, man, I'm used to this. I'm not surprised or shocked by anything. I think it's my family, it's my friends, it's the people that were involved in this, it's the local police that are upset about it. Obviously I'm upset about it, but I think it's par for the course. I'm just used to it. I'm not surprised. But the people that are the people that were directly involved and affected by it, and they're the ones that are really upset about it.
Right. So maybe the best way to say this, if it's not going to change, perhaps maybe entice them a little bit. So we can say instead, hey, you can write the story and you can make it clickbaity all you want, and that's going to get you that 5 minutes of fame. That's going to get you those extra clicks on the website. But in the end, fighters are going to see that, because you guys have to be engaged in social media in this day and age. And they're going to be less inclined with reaching out to you for stories in the future, right?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. And that will change on my own personal end. I read everything. I see everything. So, I'm just in tune with this game. I'm a junkie. So, and other guys have done similar things, and then the media makes them look like they're assholes, and that's just how it goes. But I'll conduct myself differently moving forward for sure.
So moving forward, hey, this may seem like a right way to go about it, but in the long run, you really just might be hurting yourself if that's the story that you're going for. I don't know, man. I think I've written for those places before where it's based on clicks and it's not necessarily based on content. Before I was talking with you, I was talking with my editor of the website, the difference between canceled and postponed as far as fights are concerned, right?
Right.
So there's a little bit of a disconnect in journalism versus modern journalism, and maybe I'm too hell-bent on the old ways and the old-fashioned ways of style and proper reporting, that maybe it frustrates me a little bit more than the next guy that this was the direction that people decided to take with this.
Yeah, and I was too. Again, but I've been in the sport for a very long time. So, again, like it's sad to say it like that, but I wasn't surprised. And that's more so. Like, I'm just as upset about it. I didn't expect any better, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, if we can't change the model of it, perhaps we can warn for future events, because you have your freedom of speech, but it doesn't mean that you are free of consequences from your freedom of speech, right?
For sure. Well, I mean, and I can deal with that stuff on my own. Like I know who I will and won't do interviews with. I know, you know what I mean? Like, so I can protect myself fairly easily by just doing interviews with people that I trust and I know are going to put it out as I say it. They're not going to backstab me and put out different stuff. So, and that's the direction I'll go.
Sure. So we're going to wrap a pretty little bow on this because your time is precious. Unfortunately, we know that your fight card got postponed, but you're not going to be out for too long. You're still Anthony Smith, who's going to be fighting, the top contenders in the light heavyweight division. So 2 questions that are both very similar. The first one, with the situation that happened with you earlier in April and the home invasion, again, Ariel did a great job with this and you did a great job expressing yourself on this. What would you want everyone to take away from your own personal interaction here? If there was a silver lining to this, for lack of a better term, what would you want people to know about this story?
I don't know. Just number one, to just be careful about. I guess I'm trying to think how to put this because I wouldn't necessarily take my own advice. I would say be careful about what you put out there for sure. As an athlete, but I would be careful and I would pay attention and I would do research on who you do your interviews with. Because to be honest, that wouldn't have changed anything for me because I do the person I did the interview with. This the follow-up stuff, but you got to keep a pulse on that stuff, and you got to see how people are treating you post all of that. So I think that's some of it. And listen, at the end of the day, everyone's going to get burnt at least once. That's just how it is. And do I feel like I got burnt? No, it feels to me like some people showed their faces, and that's not necessarily a bad thing either. So I think sometimes when people show you who they are, like I've been nothing but accommodating for anyone who's wanted interviews or anyone who wants me to do some media stuff with them. I've done nothing but been accommodating to them. And if I don't get that in return, then that's fine. That it is what it is, But like when people show you who they are, you have to believe them, and that's how I'm going to move forward.
Right. Finally, everybody's sitting here talking about how John Jones responded to this, but I have a feeling that you've had an array of former opponents, teammates, fighters in different weight classes that have reached out to you with more positive feelings. And I feel like that's a more impressive story. That's a more attractive story to me, is talking about the people who in a time like this were more heartfelt towards you, right?
Yeah. No, people, listen, and that is the one thing that's getting missed. Is how the MMA community has just totally reached out and had my back and been very honest about their own personal situations, about how they weren't necessarily ready for a situation like that, or what would they have done, or they want to put themselves in my position and try to figure out what's their plan of action for their family. So I think that it's helped people. Like, it's helped people realize, like, it can happen to anybody. If it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody. Because I live in a small community. I live in the middle of Nebraska. I live in the middle of the country in Nebraska in a really, really nice, super tight-knit neighborhood. It's very, very nice. It's lots of kids and families. Like, and if it can happen to me, it can happen to anyone. So I think that's probably the thing I'm happiest about. Is like people are just they're keeping their the guards up a little bit. Everyone's locking their doors. Everyone's making sure that if they do have firearms, that they are close to them, and that stuff's all ready to go. Or people are talking about taking classes, or whatever. Like that's the silver lining for sure. That hopefully at least one person is safer after hearing my story than they were before.
You really are good at this, and you have had some time behind a microphone, because you just answered my last question, Anthony.
Well, perfect. See, I'm getting better. I'm getting better at this media stuff.
Well, Rogan said it on his show when he was talking with Brendan Schaub. After your MMA career for fighting is done, you certainly have a future in commentary after all of that.
I hope so. You know, this whole media thing has kind of come as a accident to me. You know, I never had any real like aspirations to get into the media stuff. I just kind of fell into it, and I like it. You know, but I never thought for a second that I was going to be, you know, some media mogul that people were going to enjoy listening to. I just say it how I feel, and I'm just honest about it, and it seems like people seem to enjoy that. So I just keep doing it. They keep calling, and they keep offering me gigs, and I keep going. And that's really it, man. I just hope that they keep calling for the next one.
Well, we really appreciate you taking the time with us, Anthony. Thank you again for everything. And, of course, we'll be looking eagerly to see the next fight card that's available, and when we'll be seeing your face and your fight again.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you. You guys take care.
A huge shout out and thank you to Dependable Solutions. Innovating the future of your business, visit dependable-solutions.net to save your company money by reducing the markup percentage on your credit card processing fees. It's just that simple. Do yourself a favor, go ahead and check out dependable-solutions.net.